No one's going to refer you or refer a product or refer a restaurant or refer a movie unless it's really, really, really good. The smartest marketing principle of all time is things like Apple and Nordstrom's and Amazon, create something great and then people will flock to you.
You talked about principles. Let's talk about those because you have this awesome talk called the seven marketing principles to build your business and brand. So let's talk about a few of them. Can you give us maybe one or two of those 7 principles that can really help a real estate syndicator who's out there?
First of all, marketing is simply connecting the dots. It's not about being manipulative. It's not about being clever. It's truly connecting the dots and really understanding what the inventory is of what you have, what your goals are, what the competition is. I submit nothing really changed with Jim's message. In fact, nothing changed with Jim's message. And Jim was such a maverick. Yeah, nothing changed. He didn't want to do interviews. So basically I had something to work with and it was up to me to change the narrative of how I took him out to the marketplace. And that's what I call connecting the dots. Going from email addresses to or going from mailing addresses to email, and then going from email to social media and all the different platforms out there. You just have to connect the dots. The second one is tactics and principles. And this is big. With technology, tactics are always changing. So the same tactics in 93 changed in 2000, changed in 2007. The Brian Tracy 3-day event where I had Darren and others speaking that you were at in 2000.
Yeah, I was there, yeah.
Yeah, that required a certain set of tactics. Those have changed. So tactics are always changing. And you don't have a lot of success without having tactics. But more importantly, I believe, are principles. And so I have about 8 principles, and the principles have never changed. The same principles in 93 were in 2000, 2007. They're true today. And I would submit most people are focused on tactics and not principles. And I'll name a couple of the principles.
Yeah,
Principle
please.
number 1, now this is tricky, have good products, have good service. When I say I created a viral tool that sold 6 million copies, guess what? It was great. It was well done. It was well thought through. No one's going to refer you or refer a product or refer a restaurant or refer a movie or refer anything, a book, unless it's really, really, really good. The smartest marketing principle of all time is things like Apple and Nordstrom's and smart companies do, Amazon, create something great and then people will flock to you. And so that's undeniable. Another marketing principle is be relational versus transactional. And again, in this space, it can't be more important. It's all about building trust, long-term trust. I've been around a while, and I have seen people get out of the gate, go so fast that are always starting over, and Jim and I would talk about it. Now, Jim passed away in 2009, but even to this day, I hear his voice and I'm thinking about it. It's like, so-and-so's up to another scheme. I mean, they're always scheming. They're always having to hustle. They're always having to chase something instead of build something that people want to refer, something that's going to compound over time. And the other principles are things like being strategic, making sure everything's synergistic. I'll skip to the wheel.
Yeah, talk about. I was going to talk because the wheel is a concept that I learned from you, and it's so applicable to anybody really that's looking to build a list, but especially for real estate syndicators. Tell them about the wheel, because it's such a cool concept or that you came up with.
Yeah, in really 93, I spent 2 days brainstorming how am I going to take who I thought was the best speaker in the world, Jim Rohn, but candidly, no one knew who he was. I mean, they knew who Zig was. Zig was huge. I would say 1 out of 10 people that knew Zig knew who Jim was, Jim Rohn. But those who knew him loved him. So I had that going for me. Again, he was a great product. He had advocates. So I drew a circle on a sheet of paper, and it was a wheel. And then I put a hub in the center. I wrote Jim's name, and then I drew these different spokes. And I recommend everyone do this. And each spoke was a product or a service Jim had. And so Jim had a book, an audio, a 1-day seminar, a 2-day seminar. And then I thought, well, okay, if I can get people on the wheel, can I take them around? If they read his book, can I get them to go from a book into a seminar? If they go to the 1 day, would they go to the 2 day? But here became the overwhelming question, Mauricio, and this definitely applies to this group, is how do you get people on the wheel? And that's what I got excited about thinking, how can I get people on the wheel? Now, there's some rules to that. And I call it, so first of all, that's customer acquisition. So each spoke is a product or service, but it's also customer acquisition potentially. And I thought, can I create a product that would also be customer acquisition? So when I created the little quote book, I had 5 thoughts behind a spoke on the wheel. So spoke, first thing is, if you're going to create a spoke on the wheel, is it part of your core business? I see a lot of people doing one-offs. Well, if you're doing one-offs, it's not going to compound. You're just investing time into something that's going to sit over on the side and go nowhere. So I have to tell you, a tenet of everything I've done, going on almost 30 years, is everything I do has to be synergistic with everything else I do. I mean, there are rules that can be broken because, hey, I want to work with this person, or it's just too cool. I did that with Phil Collin and Def Leppard. And that was a one-off that I still benefit from this day. I mean, he did a mastermind at my house. How cool is that?
That's
pretty awesome. I wanted to do that. There were some intrinsic reasons to go film with him at his house. And that's led to so many cool things since. But that wasn't part of my core business. But I'm always asked, is it part of my core business? Number 2, is it going to be the thing that knocks down all the other dominoes? So, Gary Keller talked about what's the one thing that's going to knock down the dominoes? Well, as a seminar promoter, that was always my thought. If I'm going to go into a city, literally there are 50 things I could do. You could put business cards on windshields. I mean, it's endless what you can do. And everything does work. I think that's a good thing for everyone to know, is everything works. So when people bring you ideas, just know, yeah, it works. But some things don't work that well. So for me, I want to get down to the 2 or 3 things that work the best. And that's a constant pressing of your thoughts. It's like pressing the wine, to get to the purest wine philosophically of what can you do that's going to get you the greatest benefit. The other things are, is it part of your secret sauce? Jim's secret sauce, if anyone's heard him, he was a wordsmith and he could take the complicated, make it sound simple. He was funny. He also had advocates that loved him. So that's where I thought, well, maybe if I created this quote book, and because he had all these quotes. Now, he didn't have a list of quotes. But I heard him. I heard him say brilliant stuff. And it's like, okay. So I went through his seminars. I pulled out quotes. The guy was so prolific. So this has 365 quotes, this hardbound book. But I did it really to do this. And I envisioned being able to put this in a corporate pack I would send to CEOs to try and book Jim to speak. What would make Jim different and unique, but based on his secret sauce? But here's another one. What are your goals? And Mauricio, I know you and I have talked so much about our goals in the past, and being our family, lifestyle, things like that take precedent over anything else. And I think it's really important when you're thinking about your plan is, what are your goals? Because a question I like to always ask is, if everything I planned here happened successfully, would it take me where I want to go? And if the answer is no, take a step back, because I think it's possible to create a business that fits all those things. You just got to rethink it. Like I said, nothing changed with Jim's message. It was just the strategy.
Yeah, and as you know, I'm a huge goal setter, and I believe a lot in goals, and that comes from Jim. I mean, probably originally from Robert Helms, from the real estate guys, but he's up front. If you guys have gone to his goals retreat every year, he's like, I stole everything from Jim Rohn, and these are all Jim stuff. So setting a goal is key.